Damn, I thought they hired protection. We were supposed to be safe from these attacks. This underworld scum, useless. What the hell? Ah!
I've developed an interest in the project Railgun came to this facility to put a stop to. Show me.
There's no way I can do that. I can't leak that kind of information. They'll have my aliment.
I can turn you into a bloody pile of dismembered flesh right here and now. Or you can take your chances on the run from your former employers. Which do you prefer? Oh, you can't be serious. This is what they've got the first ranked level 5 doing? Trying to level up by exterminating 20,000 cockroaches? What does Academy City's governor's board possibly be thinking? Huh? Oh, so that's it, huh? And then for those of us in Item, this should be very interesting. I think I'd like to wait and see how this drama plays out. Why kill someone when you can just watch them suffer? Right? Right. Welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I'm your host from Down Under, a certain scientific Railgun.
And I am your host, Robert. I am a certain scientific happy ending.
And I'm your host, Chaos, and today I'm Railgun, copy 49. 43, sorry.
Did somebody clone me or something?
Yeah, I'm the answer to the end.
I mean, look at the similarity. I mean,
I can see this.
We're twins.
Oh God, that voice just freaks me out every time. Yeah, so I picked that quote because it felt like it encapsulated what was going on in what we're covering today, which is the second season of Certain Scientific Railgun, spin-off anime of Certain Magical Index, and of course this one's way more scientific than its predecessor, but we'll get into that a bit later. But first of all, guys, what have you been watching?
What have you been watching, Robert?
I go first. Can I go first? Can I go first?
I'll go first.
You've been watching Star Trek. What's next? Gio. Which Star Trek have you been watching, Robert?
We are almost done. We are on 6 of Voyager. We're kind of halfway through it. And then we have season 7 and we'll move on to the next Star Trek. But yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to go back to it. I rewatched this a couple of times before. But I'm really enjoying going back to it for, I don't know, 4th, 5th time. It brings back good memories. When I used to watch this, I used to actually was telling my wife, you're so lucky, because in some of those episodes, there's like the familiar part 1, part 2 episodes. So you see, those are actually the worst one when they are at the end of the season. And it's like, the ones that happen within the season, they're not that bad. But I remember having to wait a week to be able to see what happened on the cliffhanger. And then finally, the ones that happen at the end of the episodes, those are the hardest one, because then you have to wait until the next season hits. It could be next year. And
not enough time though for you to do a total reset to watch it chronologically and catch up again and wait for it, right?
Exactly. So
back then you couldn't get a hold of it. Like once it aired, there was just no access to it. It wasn't like I'll just stream it again. There's no streaming.
Exactly. There was
unless you recorded it on VHS, you were screwed.
Exactly. So I was just telling her the other day, it's like, you're so lucky, because when part 1 ends, we just have to move on to part 2. And that's it. Not even commercials, because I remember having to go through the commercials, and there's no way around it. So yeah, it's so cool, and I'm really happy that she's really enjoying it, and she's getting into it. As a matter of fact, like I said in my previous episodes, now she's the one bringing up the connections. Like when before I used to go in and stop everything we're watching just so I can find uh, relative information on YouTube that I can show. So it's kind of cool to see um, that what's the word that I'm looking for? That growth within the knowledge on the IP. It's really cool.
Well, it's just access is so improved now with things. If you're watching something that's released week to week, it's unusual these days, where it was the norm back in those days. And
Streaming is not the only answer, though. You always get.
It turns out your camera's flipped there, Gio.
Exactly.
Your camera is flipped.
It's flipped.
So your writing was backwards.
So our YouTube audience couldn't, understand what that was.
Oh dear. I can read
It's always the second time. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You got a point there.
Well, a lot of streaming licensing is very complicated. In fact, trying to find somewhere to stream this particular show was difficult in Australia. It used to be on Netflix.
You had it on the website that I use, right?
I can get season 3 on Crunchyroll, but season 1 and 2 used to be on Funimation, but that went kaput a month ago, so I couldn't get to that anymore either. So yes, Gio, I had to fall back upon your gracious informational ability to get my fix. But yeah.
Hey, I know the feeling, bro, because like the old classic Berserker animes from the 90s, only there I can find it.
Mm. But I mean, it's way better than having to buy it on VHS. I mean, that's what Voyager used to be like.
Yeah.
So, Chaos, what have you been watching?
Me? I've been watching Kaiju number 8. So awesome. Oh my god, bro.
God. Did you watch the second episode?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So good.
Some
man.
of those.
They're doing a great job. They're doing a great job at leaving you on a good cliffhanger for the next episode.
Oh, definitely. Sir, even your transformations are disgusting.
A lot of good puns. Way too many.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's sci-fi, but Marshall Head I've been watching. And last but not least, besides Railgun, I think I watched it maybe like 3 times the whole arc already in the last month. But besides that, Evangelion, which I always go back to.
You must be slowly catching up to the number of times I've watched it. Slowly.
Probably.
Yeah.
So
what have I been watching? Well, obviously Railgun. Kaiju number 8.
No.
Yeah. Kaiju number 8 was brilliant. There's only 2 episodes out as of recording, but they're really good. Highly recommend it. It's on Crunchyroll if anyone's interested, and it is vaguely sci-fi. I mean, if you consider Godzilla and Kong sci-fi, then it is sci-fi because it's basically the same sort of
thing. Hard science.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, they do have a lot of trouble getting rid of the corpses, which, is one of those things that sort of, is avoided in most sort of movies about kaiju, which is how do you deal with this huge beastie that you've killed in the middle of one of your cities and it's just lying there getting stinky?
Well, now you got the answer. They have a cleaning.
You're on intestines duty again. Oh God, not intestines duty. I can never get rid of that stink. Oh dear. So I've been watching more of the Irregular at Magic High School, which, as I said last episode, doesn't sound like a sci-fi, but it really, really is. And it's really, really good too. They have different levels of magician in it, and the magic's actually been systematized, so it's actually treated as a science. Rather than, like having grimoires and all this sort of thing, they actually have coded handheld devices to help them cast magic. And the main character, he's not very good at casting magic, but he's got all these other skills that make up for it. And they have all these different levels of mage, and the highest one is tactical mage. And a tactical mage can basically create magic, which is like nuclear detonations. And this guy is a tactical mage, but it's only known about by the highest levels of government that he's actually capable of doing this. And in the arc that I was watching, there's an American mage who's trying to hunt down the tactical mage, which caused this massive explosion and destroyed a harbor full of an invasion force that was about to invade Japan. And he basically nuked it from the control room. He was in Japan and they were over in China, and he just basically picked up this gun and aimed it across the ocean. Now, I'm wondering about the curve of the Earth, but anyway, and he basically nuked the harbor. You know that.
Don't bring that conversation up.
you know that thing at the start of Akira where it just goes, and there's this huge hole in the middle of Tokyo.
Yep.
He did that to China from Japan.
Eminence in the shadow. Same thing.
And they're like, well, yeah, exactly. And they're like, we have to hunt this tactical mage down and get rid of him. He's too dangerous. But he's a high schooler. It's like, God, high school. They're dangerous these days. But anyway, that's it. That's set in 2095, and there's a lot of science in it actually, which is kind of cool. And also, I'm trying to get finished with second season of Log Horizon, which you guys know well. So it's another cool one.
I need a reason to pick back up on it. It's gonna have to give me a good episode. Try to pick it up because it kind of like let me like, oh, okay, it's dragging now.
Yeah, I started to watch Log Horizon and I found the first episode really boring and I just stopped. But then on Robert's recommendation, I kept going and it got really good by about episode 3. So you just have to stick with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just have to stick with the characters is what makes that show. Especially what's his name? He's called Rudy, but his actual name is House Code, something House Code. But he's actually an NPC that ends up joining the adventurers. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so still watching a lot of anime. I need to watch some other things though. In fact,
you watching something else other than anime? Come on,
yeah,
let's be realistic.
But I'm going to drop this little hint for everybody. Robert might be breaking one of his taboos soon.
Yeah.
Ooh, won't tell you what taboo it is, but we've brought it up many times. So if you've listened or watched our show a lot, you will be able to work it out. That's a little secret coming up soon. TM.
Yeah, they tied me up and I was forced. Sorry.
Yeah. He likes it. So, without further ado, I think we're up for the next section.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
Well, everybody, I want to remember you that This is Sci-Fi is a movement that Robert started, which was a great idea to actually break silos in fandom. So everything we ask you is the way I use it is whenever I post some, I am always in IG posting stories and stuff like that. I use this is sci-fi hashtag. And whenever I'm looking to pick fight with somebody on Twitter too, I put this is sci-fi and then I just go anti-canon for the fucking heck of it. That's what Twitter is for, Right? Right, guys.
Sure, whatever you say.
I was fighting with some guys telling them that Alita was not cute at all. And I was using a alias that.
Are you sure you want to say that?
Yeah. But that's what I do, I go and provoke people for the heck of it. It's fun. So everything I ask you guys is if you want to look for cool stuff and just pick a fight with me, use this is sci-fi hashtag. And the fun thing about the hashtags is you can use it anywhere you like. You can use it in all your social medias, really. And I think that will be all. You guys have anything to add to this sci-fi? Any experiences you have this week?
Well, it still gets me, right? Because you could actually have a conversation across IPs. And I know, this it's something that I always say it in every episode, and it's just so cool to me that it has gotten to the point that it is at this point right now, and it has expanded to other stuff. So we have it on our Discord channel. There's actually chat groups on Twitter that and also is it Threads? No, I think Threads is just a conversation. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is that this is sci-fi. Just it's across IPs, and I'm
just like that across IPs, guys. Just like that.
Well, it's more like with instead of versus. That is the actual feeling behind the hashtag. This is sci-fi.
Yeah, like that moment when Captain Pike actually wrote the Falcon 3000, and then they kill his Death Star and rule over the Jedis.
You mean HAL 9000, right?
Yeah.
You mean HAL 9000, right?
HAL 9000, yeah. That's how Han Solo also actually was able to kill all the Kremlings.
Oh God! Look, there's nothing wrong with a bit of verses as long as it's done with respect.
Yes. Yes.
Compare and contrast is fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you're watching our YouTube channel and you see everyone Captain Chaos, you are welcome to leave a message for him on his post-its. And the number is 1-305-563-6334. Leave a voicemail for him, and we'll play it on the next episode.
And with that, we go to the next segment. And I'm going to keep it simple, guys. For these shout-outs, I actually going to give a special thank you to 2 members of our Discord channel. And if you're not part of it, I don't know what you're waiting for. You should actually go and join us in Discord. It's actually a lot of fun. I'm putting the link there on the screen so you guys don't miss it, and just being an asshole and covering Robert's face if you're watching on YouTube too, But I want to make a special thank you to JJ Hunsecker and to truetankerjamescvercko. They are actually 2 of our very special guests and members on our Discord, where we always are making jokes, memes, talking about stuff that we like. Actually, one of them is a friend of mine that we played together D&D, which is something also awesome. So come and join Discord. Don't miss the opportunity, and you can actually get to hang out with us too. Like, we're always doing video calls. I'm always streaming whenever I'm playing something or just watching videos. So all kinds of fun. And if you want to have a nice Twitter fight, but not on Twitter, we can take it there. Catch me on Discord. And with that, I'll leave it for today's shoutouts. Actually,
oh my God, that's confusing.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for that, Chaos. So on to the next segment.
The Alita Army News.
Has it got deeper? Jeez. Man, you're coming from the bottom of the Marianas Trench by now.
Is it the degenerative disease he has on his throat? So it's just gonna get worse with time.
Probably.
I'm gonna talk like this for the rest of the episode.
No.
That would be great.
This?
No, if you want to
Throw it away.
you're gonna get on Ray's nerves. What you got to do is you have to be like super cheesy, super enunciated, like Misaka.
Oh God.
Oh God. Okay.
So you will have to say like, and now I think it's time for, you know what, we're gonna do the plot because that's what we need to do in order to have a timeline of what's going on in our episode. That's very CC, right?
That was very chaotic.
I think it's more like Captain Kirk, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of the things that actually gets me to roll an eye sometimes watching Railgun is she's so like correct and enunciated about what's going on, and like she's totally Captain Obvious too. Stating the obvious sometimes, like, all right. Like you can actually not watch Railgun, just listen to the dialogue and understand everything that is happening. Right?
Oh dear.
Do we have a plot?
I'm just pulling up something to share. 1 second. There we go. That's what I wanted to show. So I just thought I'd throw that up for the YouTube viewers. But this was the most recent episode of Radio Chaos that we had as of the time of recording, which was episode 210. How the hell do you get into Zalem anyway? So after setting all this up, I was unwell for the stream, so I wasn't on there. But as I understand it, they had a really good discussion about all the possible ways you could get into Zalem, which is not an easy place to get into, especially from the ground. As you can probably tell, it's not particularly well connected to the ground, showing in that photo, but or that artwork, should I say? It's not a photo. Yeah, it's a bit of an isolated habitat up there. So yeah, it was apparently an interesting discussion. I will need to have a listen to see what they had to say, but you could too. That's currently available on YouTube on the Elite Army channel, and you too can go in and check that one out. And of course, keep Alita current, keep talking about it. We are working on getting sequels, so would appreciate your help with that.
Alita Army. Now let me recap on that, Raid. So that if you were not well when the episode was happening, you were half your way there, going to Salem probably.
No, not half the way.
Cannot make it alive for sure.
Bits of you can.
Bits of you, exactly.
Yeah, you have to
can partially get it.
for
Not
that.
the
You
right
have to
people.
the right people. Yeah.
Well, for
You
the
got-
right part of my body, yeah. For the left, I need to know the left people.
You gotta know it.
Well, apparently, you can get all the good bits if you set up there, Geo. So at least your favorite parts will go. Don't need all the other stuff.
This kind of got weird and dark at the same time.
It did. Didn't it?
if you do that, you will have in Salem a club called Fish Twister.
God. Oh man, the chaos.
I don't know what's
is
going on
rampant
with
this
me. That just came up.
week. Fish twister.
The chaos is strong on this one.
And they don't sell
Well,
fish there.
Well, a 3-word description for the story that we're covering, or the IP that we're covering today, would have to be science gone mad. And of course, it sounds like chaos has gone mad over there. So he's in the ballpark. So the property that we are covering today is a certain scientific railgun. And for those that are on YouTube, I've got my figure of Mikoto Misaka up here. So let's actually make that even bigger. So there she is, skirt flapping in the wind and all. But that's okay, because unlike most of the anime girls who flash their panties, she's actually wearing sports shorts underneath. So she's planned for this already, because she's a good girl, theoretically. That is, she is. Now, why would I have? Actually, I've got two. You can see just there in my image the legs of another model.
Like,
of,
I can see leg warmers from all the way there.
Yeah, got the leg warmer socks. Yeah. But yeah, so one of my favorite characters, Mikoto Misaka, she is the main character of a certain scientific railgun. She is known as Railgun. She is the third ranked level 5 in Academy City. What we're talking about here is a scientific based city that has been created to the west of Tokyo. So the west of Tokyo is the least, in the real world today, is the lightest populated area around Tokyo. And in this particular anime, they say that it was developed as a scientific hub. Now, in this particular world, there's people who have psionic powers called espers, and their powers are wide and varied. You have people who can teleport, other people who are in control of electricity, people who can track down other people. There are people who have powers, the ability to make themselves invisible. So you can kind of think of it as a version of superpowers, but it's based around ESP or mental powers, which are being developed in this particular scientific enclave. So it's a scientific enclave. It's a city called Academy City, and it is to the west of Tokyo, and it is walled off from the rest of Tokyo, so you can't just wander in. You have to actually be allowed in. And 80% of the population are students, pretty much all of which are trying to develop their esper powers. So these esper powers don't just manifest at a particular power level. You can build them up. And Mikoto Misaka has spent a lot of her youth working on her powers and has become one of only 7 rank 5 espers. So they're called levels. So level 0 is you're not showing any particular esper power. Level 1, you've got a very small amount of power, up to level 5, which is as high as the rating goes. It's kind of like the S rank in rankings for, fantasy worlds where you've got adventurers. The S rank covers everybody who's above a particular level and is so grossly powerful that they're hard to measure. So there's 5 level 5s, 7 level 5s, and in this particular arc, we see 3 of them. So that is Mikoto Misaka, the 3rd ranked level 5, Meltdowner, who is the 4th ranked level 5, although she doesn't reckon Mikoto is strong enough to be the 3rd rank, and she reckons she's better. And of course, Meltdowner is in her 20s and considers Mikoto Misaka, who's somewhere around 14, to be a little brat. And it's not worth the time, and she considers herself superior to Mikoto. And of course the other level 5 esper that is in the show is the top ranked level 5, which is Accelerator, and he's a piece of work, which we will go into very shortly. But before we do that, I want to ask the usual opening question, which is, when did you guys first see this, and what were your opening impressions? Robert, why don't you go first?
I'm trying to remember, and the reason why I said I'm trying to remember is, if you know me on a personal level, I am that guy that watches 4 or 5 animes at once. And this was no exception. As a matter of fact, I tried to watch this one alongside a Magical Index, and I had a Accelerator in the list that I couldn't get started yet, but it's still on my list to watch after I finish the other 2. But my first impression of this anime, it's to me, it was really cool. The idea, and that's something that I seen before. The idea of having a city that was mainly scientific and is mainly designed for the scientific research. Granted, their methods, we'll probably get into it, are not the methods that we would like. But I just found that whole idea to be refreshing. The anime itself obviously plays well into the possibilities and the research possibilities of what each of the citizens of this city, which we actually mentioned they're mostly students, they can achieve. But I found it very refreshing, very good anime. I'm still watching it right now. But what got me was a scientific city. And if you know me, you get me at science. That's it. you get me at science. and that is my first impression.
Cool. Looks like Gio's wandered off for a second. Or sorry, Railgun Clone 43. So I'll talk about my first impressions of this anime. So I initially watched a certain Magical Index, and it is set in Academy City. So you've got the whole background of the city and everything, although it doesn't play much on the science side of things because Magical Index is more about magic, which also exists in this world, just to make things even more confusing. I found the character of Index to be very childish and annoying, to the point of putting me off the show a bit. I really like Toru, the other main character in that show, and of course the side character in that show of Railgun, who shows up and is a complete tsundere and has an antagonistic relationship with Toru, but to the point where they end up helping each other out, and she starts developing feelings for him and completely tries to avoid the whole thing because she's completely hopeless with her feelings. It's actually shown just in a very short section in the manga, which basically what happened is a certain Magical Index was a light novel originally, and then it was a manga, and then it became an anime. But the story of, the involvement of Mikoto Misaka, aka Railgun, in the story, everyone loved her character, her side character, so much that the writer of the light novels decided to do a manga. So there was no actually light novel of Railgun, but they decided to do a manga as a spin-off of Railgun, and it was like so much. It was probably like more than Magical Index, and therefore it got its own anime. And the anime's had 3 outings now. Railgun S for 2nd season, Railgun T for 3rd season. And I just wanted to read you a review that was done in 2016 on Reddit by somebody called Eric Squires. Now, I don't think Eric Squires will end up listening to this, but if you do, thanks, buddy. Very good comments here. But the first thing he says in December 2016 is, "This can't be a spin-off. Everyone who calls this a great anime is absolutely right. It's awesome. I can't believe that it's a spin-off of certain Magical Index and not the other way around. By the way, I like Index too, but it always felt stunted, too short and too narrow in terms of its world and characters. In Railgun, the world and characters get fully fleshed out with just the right amount of background stories and personal quirks. Background stories seem almost completely missing in Index. Next, our heroine Mikoto doesn't need a guy or love interest to make her kick ass. She's confident but not antisocial. She's down to earth but not plastered in moe, despite her roommate's best and repeated efforts. Thank you, Kuroko. While superhero powers are cliche, our characters really aren't. Mikoto is completely refreshing while being exciting and real. And I have to agree with Eric Squires there. That's quite a good summary of the differences between the two animes. But obviously, this being science fiction remnant, we're more interested in the science side of things. So from being a side character in one light novel series that, became a manga, then became an anime, Mikoto Misaka got her own show, and her friends got a whole bunch more screen time and development. And I agree with Eric Squires in that these characters do seem more grounded and more fully rounded than the ones in the original, just because they spent more time. I mean, it's almost like Academy City Slice of Life, then shit goes down. That's kind of how it feels. And, with Mikoto Misaka being electromaster, it's like, giving a 14-year-old a bazooka, say, go out and have fun.
Oh, yes.
Because, that's totally responsible.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just blowing shit up.
So it makes a lot of sense, because I remember when I started watching, it was exactly that way. I was watching the Magical Index, and I found myself kind of watching a lot more scientific Railgun than Magical Index. And that kind of makes what you just read. Granted, I still like the other one. I just found myself wanting to watch more Railgun than the Magical.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it all depends on which side of the line you fall on, whether you're into the fantasy elements or the scientific elements. But obviously, this particular crew, the three of us, would be more into the science fiction side of things. And of course, being the story set in a futuristic, scientifically orientated city, it's kind of weird that the author originally picked Magical Index to be in that particular place. It makes much more sense that the scientific Railgun characters fit the place that they've written into far better than a girl who's a Magical Index. So
yeah,
it seemed to make more sense to me, and I do think it fits a lot better. Gio, did you want to give us your take on when you first saw this show and what you thought of it?
I started watching it and I left it off. Then you suggested it and I rewatched it. Then you insisted on this arc, and I see
we must.
You got me where you like. My likes are, because there was a little bit of limbs with no owners. Honestly, they could have done a little bit more of that. But it's a good anime. There's a lot of fan service when it comes to like fillers, but they don't stray away too far from the actual timeline, which is pretty cool. And that they did it masterfully, because there's a lot of animes that I was crazy about and I stopped because the fillers became too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely can tell you that they didn't fall short in there. I mean, how many times you've been watching an anime, Robert, and you kind of stop because there's too many fillers?
Oh, you know what? I can tell you the first. I want to say the first experience that annoyed me enough, right? Because I've seen it always, right? I've been watching anime.
Say it. Naruto
was the very first time that fillers annoy me to the point of wanting to.
That was the second time, bro. That was the second time. Bleach was the first time. Oh my god, they went crazy on the fillers on Bleach.
Well, I watched Bleach after Naruto, so for me, Bleach was the second time. But yeah, I get you.
Didn't Dragon Ball have a lot of fillers?
Yeah and no. I mean, Dragon Ball. I stopped watching Dragon Ball after GT. I didn't even finish GT. I
I'm gonna com-
watched the classic ones and the C, and I
I'm
stopped
gonna
in GT.
I'm gonna come clean, guys.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to come clean.
We know that
Right.
you have not watched Dragon Ball.
I never watched. I know who they are. I just never watched the show.
So
Now
much
that
that if somebody asking about Dragon Balls, he thinks he's talking about his balls.
No, I'm talking about the movie. The amazing movie that is out there. You know.
Oh, there's a lot of good animated movies about Dragon Ball. Yeah.
No, the Dragon Ball movie. That the actual.
No,
movie.
there's animated movies only for Dragon Ball.
I watched Broly.
It's badass, right?
And I have to
Oh, it
say,
was all right.
listening to me talk about the actual live action, direct all your hate mails to Captain Chaos. Okay, moving on.
Don't bring tasteless content, Robert, into this show. Don't talk about live actions that do not exist. And it's not because they were. And let me be clear: it's not because they were made. They do not exist because they were so bad that they erased themselves from the point of existence when they were created.
Oh dear.
If you wanna know about reverse directing a movie, go and watch Shyamalan Night stuff.
It is. It's the passion. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
he makes things so bad that you look at them and then you want to stab your eyes.
Hey, the latest Netflix live action of Avatar: The Last Airbender is actually not bad.
I love it.
I don't like slow-mo delay bending. It's like they're never gonna get it right. The bending is slow-mo. It's like I do it instead of like whoosh, I do like whoosh, ooh.
I still thought it started off pretty well.
I like that a lot.
The next season.
In the movie,
they hit it good in some characters, but then it's like the bending is impossible. Come on, man! There's people that did Smeagol in 2001. You can make some good bending.
Oh dear. So back to what we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Now back to scientific railgun and the last lightning bending.
So
rails.
So as I was saying while Gio was fixing his phone camera, I originally saw Index, then I switched over to Railgun, and I thought, oh my god, this thing is good. And I watched the first two seasons, and then the third season came out just after it. So I felt like I was blessed, right? And so what we're actually covering today, and I've put my co-host through a lot, I admit, and I thank you guys for allowing me to do that, because I actually asked them to watch 16 episodes. Normally we cover one episode of a show, right? Of a series. I asked them to watch 16 episodes because I consider the Sisters arc in Railgun Season 2 or Railgun S to be one of the best storytelling sections in all of anime. Okay, thank you. We have a new hashtag. Oh, dear. Well, it's a give and take. But anyway, basically we couldn't really do it justice watching one episode, so I asked them to watch the first 2/3 of season 2, which is the Sisters arc of Scientific Railgun. And of course, if you think Science Gone Mad is a thing, you just need to watch these 16 episodes to find out that, in this particular world, Science Gone Mad is totally accurate when describing what the hell's been going on. Now, we haven't done a plot yet. I do have a very short version.
But what he looks at it, imagine a place that is portrayed by no adults, because there's no adults anywhere.
Oh, yeah, there are. The teachers are adults.
Yeah, some adults for like NPC level kind of people. And then the city is ruled by social scoring and teenagers in leg warmers.
They don't all wear leg warmers, just okay. So anyway, the Sisters arc is a major story arc in the Taro Majutsu no Index universe, which is the Japanese way of saying a certain magical index. Originally only lasting a single volume in the light novels, it was later expanded greatly in the Taru Kagu no Railgun manga, which is the certain scientific railgun manga. The arc focuses on the ordeals of Misaka Mikoto after discovering the existence of the sisters that are being used in the level 6 shift, an experiment where they are killed in order for the highest ranking level 5 accelerator to achieve level 6. So yeah, this is pretty dark.
Yeah, kind of like a John Link Anakin situation, you know?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
The arc not only focuses on Mikoto, but with various individuals and factions involved in the experiment, as well as the effects of her struggle on the people that are close to her as well. The arc later coincides with the a certain magical index main storyline after Kamijo Toma meets Mikoto again after the first time since losing his memories. So, Kamijo Toma, let's just talk about him for just a second. He is the link between the two stories. Railgun and Index don't really spend any time together at all. So those two young women, while involved with Kamijo Toma, to different levels, he is the link between the two stories. He's not named as the main character in Index, but he basically is, because he is the thing that ties the show together. And while in that show Index goes off and does things and is off screen, they follow him around. So he's actually the main character, even though he's not named in the title as the main character. But he's involved in both stories. And the interesting thing about this Sisters arc is that it is covered in 4 episodes of the Index anime. The story is actually there. But when they did the Railgun anime, they greatly expanded it and showed all the effects going on behind the scenes from the original version, and added in all the side characters for Railgun, all her friends, and what effects it was having on them, and expanded it to 16 episodes. So it went from 4 episodes to 16 episodes. So there's a whole lot more content, but it's actually the same arc. So you can see it in the concise version on Index, which follows Toma around more than Mikoto Misaka. And then you can see Mikoto's side of things, which, she's pretty torn up about it. Because basically she gave her genetic map to a certain scientist to help try and solve, I think it was a muscular degeneration disease. I can't think of the name of it. But he basically asked for her genetic map so that they could help solve a disease. But then he gave it to the military because they wanted it so that they could clone railguns. They basically thought we haven't actually described her powers, but basically she's an electromaster. So not only is she controls electromagnetism, so basically she's a bit like Magneto, if you need a classic superhero description. She's a combination of Magneto and maybe Cyclops.
Gambit.
I'd say Magneto and Cyclops if you combine those two characters, because Cyclops has got that, you can zap the shit out of people with his eye thing. But she does that with electromagnetism. She basically accelerates a coin from... she keeps a stash of coins in her pocket, which are tokens from an arcade, and she fires them at people. Things like a railgun. So it's pretty full on. And she also has electromagnetism powers. And so what she can do is she can basically do Spider-Man on the walls if the walls have got rebar in them. So any sort of modern cement structure which has rebar in it, she can stick to. So she can walk up the walls of most buildings and hang off the ceiling and all this sort of shit. Because just about any modern, multi-story building will have rebar in it. There will be metal in there. There will be ferrous metal, and she can use magnetism, so she can just stick to it. She can throw big chunks of metal at people using her electromagnetism. She can just basically electrocute people or equipment. She decides when she discovers that they've stolen her genetic sequence, basically because they're using it not for what she intended when she gave it to them. And of course, she gave it to them when she was like 6 or something. So they've been playing around with this for a few years. And she decides she's going to shut them down because she finds out that they've cloned her many times and they've been killing these clones. And she's pissed. So she decides they've got 100 different labs that they're using. So she decides she's going to go out and destroy them all.
You know what I've been fucked up for real? If her clones would have reacted the same way that Rey and Yanami from Evangelion's clones happened.
That would be problematic.
That would have destroyed Robert.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, bro.
But luckily they didn't. So a few other points. She also is able to hack computer systems because of her electromaster powers. So basically she can invade computer systems and mess with them like the most expert hacker on the planet. So Mikoto is basically OP as fuck. She is, in a scientific world, she is pretty damn gross. And of course, the scientists who are working on, creating the most powerful being there is, because why wouldn't you? I mean, we don't care who has to die. We just want to be mad scientists. So that's basically what they decided to do.
I mean, imagine if she has a boyfriend and she's banging with him, and the guy gets death by the crutch, electrocuted at high voltage.
You just went somewhere we really shouldn't have gone.
let me bring you back. Imagine her on a chicken farm. That's what I want to imagine.
A lot of fried chicken, real quick.
Exactly.
It will be like all you can fried chicken.
That's what I want to imagine.
It's like a strawberry. Look, it will be like a strawberry field trip, but with fried chicken. Nothing gets better than that. That's
wow.
awesome.
Is this revenge? Like, I derailed you guys so many times.
This is what we're gonna do with Railgun clones. We're gonna do big farms of fried chicken.
Clone fried chicken.
I'm trying to rail in the chaos. That's all.
Really? You think that's working?
No.
Moving on.
So basically, they've created 20,000 clones of Railgun that are only around level 1 to 2. So they've got a little bit of electro power, but they're not electromasters, which was why the project, what did they call it? White Noise failed. So then they went on to hand over Misaka's code, genetic code, to the level 6 shift scientists, who then cloned her to create clones for combat against Accelerator. The original estimate was that Accelerator would have to fight the original level 5 Mikoto Misaka 128 times in different scenarios and environments to then advance him to level 6. But because there's only one Railgun, they worked out using a tree diagram, which is the orbital supercomputer above Academy City in geosynchronous orbit, that it would require 20,000 clones at levels 1 to 2 that he would have to fight and defeat to move on to level 6. Now, he was told that they were wind-up dolls, that they weren't real people, and that killing them wasn't a big deal. They're just created, bags of flesh that he shouldn't worry about killing. But of course, during the events of this arc, thanks to Misaka and Toma's insistence and defense of the clones, he comes to realize that they are actually living, thinking individuals and not just wind-up dolls as he was told. So he realizes that killing them was wrong, but it takes an absolute beatdown by Toma, who is exceptional in his own way. He's actually a level 0 as far as they're able to judge his abilities, but his right arm has some sort of mystical ability, which is why he's in Magical Index in the first place, that can actually counteract and wipe out Esper powers. So his right arm is basically an anti-Esper weapon. And he gets to the point where Accelerator is so full of himself because nobody's ever been able to challenge him. And Toma basically punches him in the face enough times to make him realize that he's not all that. And in fact,
that was tasteful, though.
Kind of.
Can I just wrap up the statement before you jump in, Robert? So it's not shown in this arc, but the fallout from this is actually that Accelerator takes a brain injury from the amount of times he was smacked. And his power requires a huge amount of computational ability, which he has because he's a genius. To work out his power of Accelerator is actually to control vectors. So anything that's moving, anything that has movement, even down to the molecular level, he can control. But he has to be able to calculate the vectors that it's currently on so that he can then adjust them. And he originally could do that because he was a genius, but he takes a brain injury from the beatdown from Toma, and he's unable to do that anymore. And then he ends up being connected to what's called the Misaka network, which all of these clones are actually connected into a wireless network in their brains where they share experiences. So all the ones that have died share their combat experience with the ones that come after them. And so they learn as a collective. But he actually has to rely on the Misaka network to do the calculations for him later on in his own anime, because there's another spin-off anime, the spin-off of the spin-off, called Accelerator. And in that, he's basically brought back down to earth, understanding that he is not all that there is. And he actually, well, he wasn't a super bad guy, but he was basically convinced by the evil scientists, TM, that this was okay. But then when he realized it wasn't, he decided he would never kill another clone and that he would protect them. So
are you an evil or a mad scientist?
I'm just mad.
Okay.
I'm not particularly evil.
Wanted
I'm
to
just
make
mad.
Distinction.
Yeah, definitely just mad. So, Robert, you were going to say?
Yeah, the Misaka. Before I say that, I just gotta say that. So basically, the Misaka network is just a newborn collective, right?
Basically, but they're not trying to assimilate others.
Yeah, which is a good.
They're happy with their own little collective.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, they're basically worthless forms of life.
Oh, dude.
That's a little harsh, but anyway.
Hey, we're a few years apart from that conversation in lawmaking.
Well, there's a couple of questions as you were explaining, Ray, that came to mind. One that I always wondered, and I guess I'll bring it up here for us to discuss. It's obvious this city is basically filled with students, right?
80% of the population is students. So there's still 20% adults.
Exactly. So in percentage wise, this is basically just a city for kids. Just to, obviously a various range. And it is apparent from your comment when we go back to the beginning of your comment when we examine how the scientists got Mikoto's DNA sequence.
Hmm.
And that's something that kind of bugs me, right? From the moment, from the fact that this is mainly kids, we don't really see parents like what would typically happen. If you gotta go into a city, something like this in real life, you probably go ahead and move, your parents included, and then your kid would go to school. This is not what's happening here, right? So the kids basically just moving to the city by themselves without the parents. Obviously, they can't, go visit the parents. It's not like they're yelled in there. But I'm saying all this because what bothers me is, there's a rule that is completely being bypassed on this city that it's common sense, right? So a kid or let's say an underage person doesn't have the maturity to make legal decisions, right? They can make their own decisions, but they can't make any legal decisions. So it always bugs me that, and it kind of like, I guess it's a testament of the kind of people that these scientists are. But it always bugged me the fact that they are getting permissions from a 6-year-old to get the DNA sequence so they can do whatever they want. It always bugged me, like, what happened to Misako's parents? Why are
Talk
they?
about consent.
Well, I do understand that her parents were divorced, so it was only her mother, and her mother does show up a couple of times. Not in,
Mhm.
well, you see her in this arc when Misaka's really small, but you don't see her. She actually, I think Misaka's mother shows up in Index actually.
But I know why the
starts
parents
cracking on
are
the
absent.
Toma.
You know why their parents are absent, right? The only reason that it should make sense for is she's a heroine, so of course she has to be some kind of an orphan.
Well, she's not an orphan, but basically this is like a giant boarding school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the kids live in dorms, and there's the dorm mother who is supposed to, keep them, in their rooms at night and all this sort of shit. But Misaka's just so damn powerful. I mean, even Kuroko at level 4, she can teleport. I mean, you can't keep somebody in their room if you can teleport. It's like, I'm in my room, really am.
Yeah, my point is, like, I don't know why I notice it so much, but is it true or not that throughout the whole series, a relationship with an adult, it's kind of like minimal. It's like it's centered around her and her same age area. So it's like adults are like a sideline in the show. Only when like the undressers, when the undressers attack, like you got there 1-to-1 with an adult, but she was the villain.
Yeah.
But like even the cops, when they're like in bad times throughout the series, like in the first season, like they get saved by little kids, little girls that are like 12, 13.
Well, so it's like I said, it's giving a 14-year-old a bazooka and telling him to go out and play. It's like shit. where's the adult
some kind of guidance
and control? Adult guidance, I guess you'd call it. But yeah,
I'm not really saying that there's a plot hole in the story. That's not what I mean, and I just gotta clarify that ahead. It just bugs me, and the reason why I want to bring it up is because you kind of tell what kind of people that she's dealing with, because it is obvious that they scammed her in the way that they presented. I mean, if you look at, they are appealing to her humanity at a 6-year-old level. Number one. Number two, she is at an impressionable age where most adults will tell something and they would believe it because they don't know better. So I think they in that scene, 'cause, typically what would happen, right? They would send a note home, the parents will sign it, and that's it. So they completely skip all this, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, and I wanted to get your opinion on that, is because it actually, I think it helps sell the image of the scientists within the city. And of course, I'm doing a generalization, right? Because I hate to feel that there's everybody is like that, because but it bugs me. It really did.
So I think what the situation is that it's not a government funded area. It's funded by corporations.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually extraterritorial to Japan. I think that Academy City might be a corporate enclave, and therefore they have their own rules and their own laws, and it's all run by this. Now, what did Meltdown call it? The Academy City Governors Board.
Yeah.
Now, I think that the Governors Board would be beholden to the national diet of the Japanese government, but I think that basically what happens in Academy City stays in Academy City, as it were.
Yes.
And only the information that they want to get out gets out. Now, the other thing is that there's only 20% of adults in this place, and I think like 18% of them were evil scientists. So it's only like 2% of normal adults.
I agree.
But basically, this is every evil corporation's wet dream to have their own space where they can just basically mess with everything they want.
Hey, the bleakest part of it all is that when you're a kid, you think that adults know more, and then when you become an adult, you just know that they don't know what the fuck is going on, and whoever knows is because they fucked up plenty of times to know.
Well, it's not just that; it's basically that you think that people act under good intentions, but it's not the case most of the time. People, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but people get dragged into bad things, and it's once they're there, it's a bit late. And I'm not saying that all the scientists were evil. It's just that they were working and they were doing a job to get paid to live, that sort of thing.
You're a scientist.
They may not have realized how bad things were, but I know some of them were clear. I mean, the guy in our quote obviously knew that they were paying underworld espers to protect them, and Academy City has a definite underworld, which the security forces either don't know about or aren't allowed to prosecute or go after, because it's part of the corporate setup so that they can get shit done that's illegal. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you guys about, and we've kind of started covering it already. And that was basically, what do you think about Misaka's issues with being cloned, and did she go about it the right way? What do you reckon, Robert?
Well, that is a question that we have kind of alluded to in other shows about cloning, and I guess I preface by saying that you never know exactly how you would feel until you're presented with that situation. But it is hard. I think I would feel, if I put myself in a situation as what is presented in this show, I think first I will feel creeped out. Second, I will feel upset, mad, and I would feel powerless, hurt because I had no control, and this was happening, and I did not know that this happened. Now, in my particular case, which is a little different than the two of you, I would think I would take it a little extra hard because of how much of an empath I am. It would probably destroy me personally, because I would want to try, if I had the power, to try to help the clones to free themselves or hide or whatever it is, so they don't go through that whole ordeal. But it's kind of like a hard question, because number one, the technology is not there yet. But as an empath, I would feel that especially if they are cloned with my memories, it would be extra hard for me, because I would feel for them and know that within their heads they feel they are the original, when in fact I know they are the clones.
And they know that thing that nobody else knows that you did.
Well, lucky for Mikoto, these clones don't have her memories. They were programmed using a special device which basically put a personality and memories and things into them so that they could function like a person, but it wasn't as complete as growing up and
kind of like the Ghost in the Shell information.
Kind of like, yeah. But the thing was that they are connected into a network, so that everything that one of them experiences, the rest of them will know. So one of them has a cup of tea, the rest of them know what tea's like. So they had that shared information, and it was only done so that they would get better at combat, so that they could challenge Accelerator more.
Yeah,
it was the only reason it was done. So yeah, basically they were being used as lab rats.
Yeah, but I mean, the funny thing is, we mentioned this technology, and people don't realize how useful it can be in so many other fields, because it was just created for the wrong intention, but actually has so much practical use put in the right place.
Well, that's the same with any developed technology. It can be used ethically and in the right way, or on the other side of the coin, it can be used in completely non-ethical and disruptive ways.
I mean,
so it's not the technology that's at fault; it's the user.
Yeah. I mean, they'll go further. Even like if they would have looked at it on a combat mode to fight Accelerator, they could have done the best tactical attack ever.
If they all,
if they militarize that ability, they could militarize that ability like this.
Early on in the project, they actually had multiple clones attack him at once, and it went basically the same way. So, they fire a gun at him, he deflects the bullet goes into one of the other clones. He's basically using their shots to kill off the other ones. But
I'm talking about more like surprise attacks and things like that. Something more complexly, with more complexity when it's coordinated. Like in that shot, like it looked more like they were just going at him, and that's it.
I mean, yeah, they don't want to kill him. Like the people who are running the project don't want to kill him, because he's the one that they're hoping to push to level 6. Now, the difference between level 5 and level 6 is basically level 5 is a superhero, like in DC or Marvel. Level 6 is a god. And it's not covered in Railgun S at all, but in Railgun T, an even madder scientist, evil mad scientist, decides that Railgun should become a level 6. And it gets pretty ugly there at the start of Railgun T, where Misaka is actually being pushed to become level 6, and things get really fucking funky. I don't know if you guys have seen that that part of the series yet, but yeah, it's scary funky, and it takes level 5 Antoma to stop her from becoming a god and destroying the Earth. So yeah, I mean, good science. Yeah, sure. It's the old meme. You were thinking so hard about whether you could, you never thought about whether you should.
Exactly.
Which is
now
basis
I
of-
wanted to answer to the same question that you asked, Robert, about basically Cece. For some reason I keep on calling it like Kakoru call her Cece. But while I get how she feels, it will be something that nobody's prepared really. The other thing is, none of us knows what it is to look at a clone of yourself fully alive, you know?
Mhm.
But I would guess that
That'd be
at
freaky.
least instinctively, it will create a direct bond between you and that creature.
You think so?
Yeah. Because, I mean, that will be like the exteriorization of what self-preservation can become, if you think about it. You will feel an instinctual calling to protect it, you know? That's what I would think.
I see your point.
So I mean, it's no wonder to think that she will go in one of the best things of playing an anime fight, Berserk mode, you know? I actually was pleased in that scene. I was like, yeah, give me some Berserk mode.
I have a lot of trouble imagining anybody bothering to clone me. Mainly because I don't think it's worth the time. But if I had some sort of exceptional power like Misaka does, then I mean I can't imagine being that way in the first place. So it's a step beyond that to imagining somebody wanting to clone me even once, let alone 20,000 times. So I have a lot of trouble getting into the mental position of understanding her situation, because I don't have the I don't have that level of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have that level of agency that would make it worthwhile. And if I did, I would be a different person. So I don't.
Oh, for sure.
I can't really conceptualize that someone would want to call me.
It will be badass. I would love to know like a unethical Ray.
No, you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. You don't want to know evil Ray. No, you don't.
But yeah, man.
I
would.
Dear. So yeah, I have a bit of difficulty putting myself in her shoes, mainly because my feet would probably be way too big for them. But yeah, just
that's because you're not an empath like Robert.
Oh, I am a bit, just not as much as him.
I'm a psycho, so.
I mean, I could see them cloning Geo for the amusement factor, like upping the chaos.
Every clone is a whole new level of crazy.
Yep.
Especially
what about you, Robert? Can you see yourself having value as being cloned?
Value?
I mean, obviously they're cloning Misaka because they're trying to create an army of electromasters, and it fails. But then they go, well, we can use these clones, as guinea pigs for this other project. So the original intent was to create more railguns.
Maybe if they do a clone from the clone from the clone from the clone.
An empty-headed dumb rubber.
No, I don't. I don't see. I mean, I'm thinking, but I don't really see a value.
If you want that, you want a empty shell of you because so many copies, and there's not gonna be shit left of the original on it.
No, but what I'm talking about is how you copy a copy. There's always some imperfections.
Can you imagine recording a show with a copy of Robert? We're like, Robert, don't squat on the chair. You sit like a human.
Oh dear. So yeah, my answer to that question is I can't quite conceptualize it.
The only thing he knows how to say is moving on.
Thank
Can you see the glitches of a copy of a copy now?
the moving on bot.
Oh wow. Another thing that I was thinking during this show, and it is prevalent during this arc, right? Because of the obvious, cloning, is that I always wonder what happened to this scientist. I know the scientists that have a lot in this pot, right? You would have to be evil to be able to. But even those at the beginning, I like to think that everyone here started somewhere, that everybody started a scientist, right? I always wonder that the level of ethic that you have to lose. And also another question that I had is like, there's a lot of adults working for these corporations because it requires for the type of research and the type of experimentation that they're doing. And it's kind of obvious from some of the scenes when you see some of the scientists interacting with the clone that some are questioning themselves. But I wonder, what does it take for someone to be involved with something they're not quite sure is ethical and continue with that? And this seems to be happening at different levels within this city. And it just, I don't know. It's something that really bogs my mind as I'm watching this whole ordeal happen. Have you guys thought about that? And what is your thought on that?
Well, being a scientist myself, sometimes you can get lost in the possibilities and the methodologies and not be thinking about the outcomes and the fallout. Obviously, when we're doing science here in Australia, anything that could set foot in an ethical grey zone has to be completely teased out and decided upon by an ethics committee. So not a single person gets to make any decision about whether something's ethical or not and whether it should be used. But oh God. If you're watching the YouTube video, and if you're not, you're just wondering what the hell's going on. But let's just say that Gio's up to his old tricks of drawing pictures again. So you have to check out the video to find that one out, which will drop a month after the audio stream drops. But getting back to what I was saying, so we have ethics committees, and anything that has to do with animals or people all has to go through ethics committee approval, and sometimes it's approval with caveats, so certain things are allowed and certain things aren't allowed, based on a group of people coming to a decision on the ethics of the proposed experiments. Of course, as I said before, Academy City appears to be a corporate enclave. Oh, God, will you stop doing that? So I'm just going to try and ignore them, close my eyes and talk. But these decisions aren't made by a single person. But in Academy City, it seems like ethics is a distant consideration if it's considered at all. And it's a case of science for science's sake, to the point of just ignoring responsibility for underage people, and also the ethics of any particular experimentation. They don't seem to care, which is, basically, as I described it, with the 3 words, science gone mad. Basically, you wouldn't get away with this in any sort of regulated scientific endeavors that are covered under any national governmental restrictions and laws. But Academy City, all bets are off.
So could you say, as a scientist and speak for the scientific community, that this is like dreamland for scientists?
I would never consider myself a spokesperson for the scientific community. However, I can give my own personal opinion, and I would say that there would be the occasional scientist who has been fettered by ethical restrictions and things like that, that they think that their experiment would benefit humanity, and breaking a few eggs to make an omelet's fine, and they would step over the bodies to get to the result. There would be a few scientists like that who think that whatever method required is justified by the result. But most scientists wouldn't. Most scientists understand that there are limits and things that you shouldn't do, and they wouldn't do them. So
those that did it got it achieved over their dead bodies.
But I mean, we know things about biology and the human body and medicine that we never would have dared to experiment with if it wasn't for the Nazis. The Nazis did horrible things to the Jews and discovered a whole bunch of things that we use every day in medicine.
True.
And it was a terrible thing to have been done to those people. But the benefit, you could say, has outweighed the cost. And all the people who are alive today because that was done, would be very happy to say that it was done, but it was at a terrible cost to those individuals who were experimented on by the Nazis. And and I can see Robert's having issues with this right now because of his empathy, but I mean, even bad things can have good results.
That's true.
Is basically what I'm saying. So you can condemn the Nazis for doing horrible things to people, but the result ended up saving millions of lives, most likely. So it's really hard to say if, doing something that's immediately disrespectful or breaches the ethics on individuals won't have a much huger result later on. And if it's sort of like factory farming or farming for meat production. There's a lot of people in the world who are dead against it, but those animals never would have existed if it wasn't for the purpose of being turned into food. And while you can be very upset about that, people have to eat. And despite what a vegan will tell you, most people do better if they're eating a balanced diet of meat, vegetables, and grains and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a huge ethical dilemma in wanting the most benefit, but the cost is, those animals or those clones, which never would have existed if there wasn't a need for, developing something to help the rest of humanity. And obviously in this show, it's not quite like that, but I could see situations where people are cloned and then the clones are mistreated to discover a cure for epilepsy or muscular dystrophy or something like that. And, people would be up in arms about how the clones were treated because functionally they were a person with human rights, but they were created specifically for this purpose. A lot of the times they want to clone bodies, but not heads. So leave the head off, and not have it as a functional human. Just have it as a sort of a body which is running on autopilot, so that you're not affecting a human that can feel pain. But I mean, it's a huge dilemma in the method and the means over the result. So it's a really hard to say.
That reminds me of one of my favorite movies, which we haven't covered here, called The Island.
Yeah.
Ooh, I remember that one.
Oh, that was a good movie, man. That movie was one of the main things that got me I love sci-fi, bro. And I mean ScarJo in her youthful years. Mwah.
Another show where the rights of clones is completely ignored, and they're my body cells. They've been cloned from me. They belong to me. I can do whatever I want with them. Doesn't matter that they're functioning as their own individual, with their own needs, desires, wants, experiences, memories.
Pretty ass cattle. Yep.
And it all comes down to what the law says. If the law says they're not functional people because they're cloned from, the original person is the owner of those cells that were used to create that clone, therefore they belong to that person. It's just like an offshoot of that person. So that person can decide what to do with them, and they have no rights under the law, then it's tough shit for them, the clones.
That's true. That's one of my favorite phrases. Somebody tried to complain about the law, and an officer actually told them, because it's the law doesn't mean that it's just, but it's still it's the law.
Well, a lot of laws lag decades behind scientific advances.
Yep.
And, they're always trying to legislate against things that haven't even come up yet and are fully formed as scientific advancements. And these sorts of things, can take decades to decide the best way to handle them for all involved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hugely complicated issue. And, one country says clones are individuals and they should be treated as such, and another country says, no, they're just bundles of cells grown from the original. The original is the owner unless they've sold them off and can do whatever they want. And it all depends on which country you're living in and where the experimentation is taking place. And I can tell you where the experimentation will be taking place: in the country that allows it to go ahead.
Yep, that's true.
That is so true.
So, Academy City allows carte blanche on what you want to do in science. So that's where this shit's going down. And Mikoto didn't like it. Yes, thank you. Mikoto didn't like it, so she decided to do something about it. A 14-year-old goes on a rampage destroying labs.
Yeah.
A coup with a 14-year-old. Don't mess around with teenager guys.
And the only way they could stop her was to send in a whole bunch of other crazy powerful espers to try and take her down.
Yeah.
But then near the end of this arc, Mikoto Misaka realizes that she can't stop the experimentation by destroying the labs. So she decides, I'm going to screw with Tree Diagram, the orbital supercomputer, and basically present a situation where the experiment is now null and void and it won't work. So they'll stop killing the clones, which is a reasonable way to think about it. Problem is that an out-of-control magic spell from Index shot up through the roof of a house a couple of weeks beforehand and destroyed the satellites. So Tree Diagram is not there anymore. which is from the other anime. So yeah, these two animes affect each other quite significantly. So she basically breaks into the orbital communications facility to mess around and discovers it abandoned because Street Logo isn't there anymore. She's like, what the hell can I do then? And she decides that she has to go and fight Accelerator one-on-one and go down like a chump really quickly, because Trigonogram had worked out that it would take roughly 128 moves before she would go down. And that's what it was basing the 20,000 clones on. So if she went down like a chump, then and he killed her, then she would die, but then they'd realize that they needed huge numbers more clones and many, many more years, and they would give up, and the clones would survive that way. Now, what Misaka hasn't taken into consideration here is that these clones have been accelerated, growth accelerated. So they've been accelerated 14 years old effectively in a number of weeks.
Yep.
And they're actually not meant to live all that much longer anyway. We do find out later on that they treat them chemically to slow down their growth, but they are not going to live as long as a normal person.
Rei Yanami. I wonder what the end of that life will look like. But I guess that they went overboard already with showing us a good fighting content. That they didn't go that far. But still, I mean, it was interesting to see that part. I would like to see how, like, more of how that will play out. But it reinforces my point earlier about if they go tactically exploit that advantage of being connected, they could overpower Accelerator eventually. I mean, he's not immortal. A lot of them are gonna die on the tribe probably, but they can overpower him by quantity.
I feel I don't know. For some reason, I don't feel that would be the end result, even if they because the fact is the clones don't have the full power of Mikoto.
But
No.
you're gonna tell me that 100 clones cannot take down one original Mikoto?
No,
100 cannot. So that means that their strength doesn't compile by quantity. It's plateaued by the level. It's like if I got 10,000 bolts and I put in 10 times together, it's gonna be a lot more. You know.
It's the reason why I'm thinking this, and I might be wrong. It's just in my head, and it just doesn't add up. The reason why I'm saying that is because, to me, the clones are almost regular people. They can spark, right, electricity, but it's not enough to maybe enough to cause a static electricity, but it's not enough to defend themselves. And that's the reason why they're using guns when they fight.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking,
they vary, but they're level 1 to 2. So
I thought there were 3s too.
The level 1, well, there is one level 3, but she's grown after the experiment is over, and her name is Misaka Worst, and she's a piece of work.
Well, that alone gave me the idea that maybe they didn't present, but there were other level 3s too.
Yeah, well, generally it's level 1 to 2. See, the whole thing is that Misaka didn't just at 6 years old, she wasn't a level 5. She worked really, really hard to build up her skills and her power. And it's not a case of you snap your fingers and you're superpowered Esper. You have to work on your Esper powers. And she worked really, really hard. And that's how she got to level 5. And she says that to other people who are low level. She says, look, I didn't start out like this. You got to work at it. You got to work really hard.
But the thing is, like, she got a jump start advantage that no other kid really had, because the more important years of a human being are the first 7 years, and she's like below that mark already working on polishing her skills. So that means it's like even in Mushoku Tensei, same shit happens. He started very kid and he was OP because of that, because he exploited that growing period that stops eventually. Well, so it figures that she's a level 5.
Yeah, just to mention, in Mushoku Tensei, everybody in that world believed that your magical pool, your mana
It's
pool,
predetermined.
was predetermined, but they were wrong. If you
was
emptied it
approved.
every day, it would get bigger, and he
Yeah.
worked that out and worked on it at a young age. And you could only build that pool when you're a kid. Once you start growing, it wouldn't work anymore.
I'm gonna even go further to say that you would think, oh, but he's a godsend or whatever, but he proved that to be regular with everybody with Sophie, because Sophie was not a godsend. She got no special like voodoo on her, and he actually got her to have an incredible amount of mana that makes her like undefeatable practically compared to the regular folk.
Well, yeah, she because he was teaching her at a young age, she was able to build her pool quite significantly, but not as big as him because he started when he was like 2.
Yeah, of course.
She was like 6.
Yeah, exactly. But it proves my point that Misaka basically polishing her skills so very young gave her a jump start that could not use anybody that wasn't grown on a lab to compare with. So that's why Accelerator is kind of like the closest thing, you know. But even her best friend, Mokoto, okay, Kuroko, even Kuroko, that is a high level skilled, cannot really match. It's in parallel to it.
And that brings another point, and something that we always talked about is, you know, Mikoto has a road that she traveled. This is what she started, and she is what she is at the end, or what we see in the show, because of all the stuff that happens, good and bad, through her past. The clones have a complete different outbringing. You know, for number one, for the obvious reasons that they are cloned. They were not. They didn't have the luxury of accumulating knowledge from a very young age, because they got basically they just loaded the information. So starting there, and then the actual interactions they had is very obvious when you watch and when you listen to you listen to any of the clones talk and how they refer to themselves in a third person, and it's obvious that that is an indication that they were always looked up upon as being things instead of humans, and that is actually the thought process within them, within every single one, because of the fact also that they are all connected. So I wonder if that it's going to plays a big factor into the outbringing of any of the clones. Mikoto was brought up as an individual with her own experiences.
Yeah.
And although the clones had their very own experiences and maybe possibly different surroundings, I think the main roadblock in them is the fact that they consider themselves as tools, just like anybody around them considers them as tools. And I think that's a major roadblock in their development of each one.
It is. It also shapes them up to be more stable, because think about it. If they're upbringing, which is very fast compared to a regular human life, it's not normalized to be like that. There will be a lot of conflict internally with them. On top of that, if you think about it, the best way that it gets to my mind always to like kind of compare or translate is Ghost in the Shell. It's like they don't have core memories that Mikoto has. They don't have that. So because of that, every single one of them is a branched out default version of her. They don't even probably. I think that they didn't try to play it out too much, but I mean, it seems that they have kind of like archetypical, the same way as the original, but it doesn't have all the knowledge that she has. So basically, and then for them being normal that they're tools allows them to cope with not being self-aware.
I think conflicts would be a really great tool for them to grow as individuals. And the
Oh, yeah.
fact that they don't have that internally, I think it plays a big part into not helping them develop as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to the way they were programmed. They were given memories, personalities, and all that sort of stuff to make them suitable to be killed.
Yeah.
They were supposed to fight a bit and die. That's all they were meant to do. And they sent them out onto the street to learn a bit about the world before they finished off. And the whole thing is to improve their combat ability.
And just fight a bit, bit by bit, just a bit.
Yes, to challenge Accelerator a little bit. So they don't have personal wants and desires and things like that. It's basically been left out. So after the project is shut down and they're chemically adjusted so they're not aging too quickly and they start, living as individuals. Well, they're never properly individuals because they don't drop the Misaka network. They're all connected. Yeah. So they are basically the Borg on Earth.
Yeah, they have a high
as Robert said.
It's tricky. It's kind of a loop on the plot there because they have individual awareness, but they have a shared experience.
Yeah.
And that itself, it's very problematic for a normal human functioning. And it all makes sense, again, that they are okay with them being tools. Because imagine a normal human knowing that you're going to die soon, that you're going to have to be put through things. It wouldn't function. It wouldn't be a nerve rattle. Yeah. A person to be on a cushion room, on a mental asylum, it would be.
Well, a normal person finding out that they're one of, thousands of clones, and their only purpose was to fight some ridiculously overpowered dude and die, that would break a lot of people.
Yep.
They'd basically just shut down, or they'd go screamingly insane. It would be very hard to take. So
and all of that to turn you into this. Welcome, the desert of the real.
The Matrix had to get in there somewhere, didn't it? So yeah, basically they've got a lot of adjusting to do, and you kind of see this in the last episode of the arc where Mikoto Misaka's spending a little bit of time with clone registration number 10,032, I think it is. And the one that got the shit beaten out of her but survived.
Tell me something. You both. Tell me something. Parenthesis. Yeah. It brought a lot of memories with Clone Wars, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. Basically, if this had worked out, it was Clone Wars.
They could even actually do a dedication to Star Wars and just dress all of the CC's clones as stormtroopers. It would be perfect.
I reckon it'd be really cool if you had
miss their target.
Huh?
They did miss what?
They did miss their target. So
and all those little moments between clones, when you watch Clone Wars, you get to see that too.
I'd love to see somebody do a mashup where a clone trooper walks up and pulls his helmet off. It's got Misaka's head.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
I'm gonna make that happen. Don't worry.
You could probably find a scene in the Clone Wars anime or cartoon and mix the two together. That would be cool. So we've talked a lot about the clones, but I just wanted to talk about Misaka Mikoto's character. I would have to say, as a 14-year-old, she's pretty damn mature, and that's not unheard of. Kids that are forced to go through a lot of rigorous training, like she has, often have a much more mature attitude. And then they have, attitudinal breaks where they regress back to childlike activity that's more of their level or even younger, and then push back into the more sort of adult side of their personality. But she's a classic tsundere, so she doesn't like to admit to anything that's embarrassing. And being such a powerful individual as an esper, she's got an ego on her. It doesn't always come to the fore, but when it does, you can't miss it. And she usually uses it when she's trying to get something somewhere, or is undercover or something like that, and is trying to act a bit differently than she normally would. But she like in the first season when she's talking to the character that's the undresstress in the bathroom, basically that woman who's an adult realizes that she might have a thing for the young boy, and Misaka melts down so badly that she blows the lights in the bathroom with an electric charge because she's so embarrassed. So a lot of times, the superhero characters seem, without fault, but certainly Mikoto seems more real in that she has plenty of faults. She also beats herself up a lot. She tries to take responsibility, things that are way above her pay grade or her age. And, she even goes to the point of, being willing to die to try and fix things that she believes is her fault, which is way more than most 14-year-olds would do. If they have any personal value in themselves at all. So she has quite a complicated character, and she's very mature in a lot of ways. She doesn't seem 14-year-old a lot of the time. And then you get the standard sexual harassment scenes where she shows that sort of, that she is 14 on the inside, at least somewhere. So she's quite the complicated character, but I think that her reaction to finding out she's being cloned, and there's so many of them, and that very Japanese thing of wanting to take responsibility and sort things out is very evident in the character. So I quite like Misaka as a character, although her very tsundere tendencies get annoying at times. She has a lot of good points, so I really do like her as a character.
I agree with it. I think that the way of her upbringing allow her to be more mature. It's like that kind of situation where if you had to grow up faster than you should because of how life was.
Well, a lot of kids do tend to grow up a bit faster if they're in boarding schools, because they're away from their parental, helicopter parent /
There's less nurturing and more learn and hit the wall.
Well, you basically don't have somebody to hoist the responsibility onto, so you got to take it yourself. There's no one else there to do it.
Yep.
And that forces rapid maturity in some direction or other. Mikoto is a genius. She's like, you see the scene, which is interesting for 2 points. Which the first one is that the Kongo and her two friends show up in the library and ask her about her summer homework, and she's already done it. Like, she did it way back at the start of summer. She finished it weeks and weeks and weeks ago. Yep. Which basically means that she is very intelligent, and she's dedicated to getting shit done, which is why she was able to develop to level 5, because she just kept at it and at it and at it. And she does the same with her schoolwork. So she is an achiever. She's a high achiever in the first place. But obviously in this arc, she does kind of look like a bit of a delinquent. She goes out at night, sneaks out of the dorm, starts wrecking shit.
has problem with authority, literally.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, and she says it's me versus Academy City. Academy City is my enemy.
Defiant.
So she's like putting it out there that she's going to fight the entire freaking city if she has to.
Okay, this is a special treat in the middle of the show for whoever is watching us. I want you to see this, guys. We're not gonna say what it is, but you're gonna tell me if you like it.
I'm afraid.
Love it. You did it already.
Oh my god. This is awesome.
They're awesome, right?
That is truly awesome. We should put that up on Twitter.
It's going. You bet on it.
You have to check Twitter for that one. But of course, that's a little bony for the YouTube watchers. So we're very grateful for all the people that listen to us in the podcast. But check out our YouTube channel. We could use a few more followers. And of course, if we get 10,000 followers, which it's big ask, but if we swing it, what's gonna happen, Chaos?
We're gonna get a tattoo on my body. It can be my butt cheek, but I want to show it to all of you guys. So let's pick a good side. And we can make a poll so you guys that are the reason we make the show decide what to put in it, or I can make a couple of options and make a poll too. But something sci-fi.
We should use that picture you just showed us as your tattoo. That'd be awesome.
Something sci-fi related and not the flying ship in Austin Powers. That's not sci-fi.
Oh dear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man.
But so getting back to the show for a sec. So obviously Mikoto Misaka is quite a deep and complex character, and it's shown in the writing of the anime and the sides of her character that we're shown that she does have a superhero side to her. She's very much dedicated to doing the right thing. And what she believes is right, and even to the point of breaking the law to do it. And she also cares a lot about her friends and what basically become her clone sisters. And she gets very upset when she feels like she's powerless. And she goes, I'm a level 5. I have all this amazing power, and I can't do anything about this. And she gets very upset about that. And when she's at her absolute lowest and prepared to die to try and make amends, that's when Toma walks in, and she doesn't understand that he's lost his memory since she last saw him. She's seen him twice before in season 1, where she's had fights with him, and basically she's tried to taser him, and it hasn't worked. He's basically used his right arm from the elbow down is basically an anti-esper field, and it can cancel any esper power. And so she goes to electrocute him, and he just puts his hand up. You get that ricochet bullet sort of sound, and it just doesn't work. And she basically considers that he's beaten her twice. But then they meet on the bridge, and he's basically saying, look, I've read the report. I know what's going on. I want to help. And she's like, no, this is my problem. I've got to deal with it. And she says, if you don't get out of my way, I'm going to electrocute you. And he's like, go ahead. I won't even try to stop you. She saps his ass. And she even says, I think your heart stopped there for a couple of moments. And he's like, yeah, well, okay, now you're going to let me do it because I'm serious. And she finally relents, and he goes off. He gets the shit kicked out of him, but he also manages to beat down Accelerator. And it's one of the best fights I've ever seen in anime. And it just feels so grounded because, everybody's reasoning. They've shown Accelerator's background, how he got drawn into this thing, how he believed he needed ultimate power to stop people mistreating him because he had been treated very badly because of his power in the past. And his family didn't want anything to do with him. He lost all his friends, and he thought that he needed more power so that he could live a normal life, which was exactly the wrong way to go, because more power made him more different, which made normal people not be able to deal with him. And he also realizes during this fight that the clones are real, like real people, not just wound up dolls, which he was told they were. And he focuses on Toma to take out his frustrations, and Toma beats him down. So he finally gets some humility. He's still not a great person, but he kind of understands the world a bit better and understands other people a bit better, because he really wasn't connected to other people at all, being such a unique individual and so powerful. So you can kind of see his growth, sort of a sidestep of growth, into being more of a human than more of a superpowered individual, because he already had stupid amounts of power. But Toma basically says, we're going to stop this because a level 0 is going to beat down the number 1 level 5 in Academy City. And he had the shit kicked out of him. He had metal rods thrown at him. He had railway ballasts flung into his side. He was thrown up in the air in a tornado and dumped on the ground. He had shipping containers thrown at him. He was exploded in a dust explosion, and he kept getting up. And he did what he said he was going to do. And Misaka was amazed that the guy had taken such a beating and was still going and did what he was supposed to do. And I suspect that's when she fell in love with him. But the writer never wanted to get them together, so it didn't happen. But she did develop feelings for him. So it's not like she
got to her.
It's not like she can't develop feelings for somebody. It's just that the writer said, "No, you're not having a boyfriend." So, yeah.
Dang it.
Them's the breaks.
They didn't want
No,
to break Kuroko's heart.
No nookie for you.
No, they just didn't. They were too fond of Kuroko. That would have destroyed her, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this arc, you actually see Kuroko having conniptions that maybe Toma and Sissy, as she calls her, spent the night together.
Yeah.
So she was freaking out about that. So, yeah. Lots of sexual tension, including the roommate, but it didn't develop into anything.
Plot
But
development.
as I was mentioning, there is a section in the manga where Misaka actually admits to falling for Toma, but it never goes anywhere. Like she doesn't see him again, because he actually goes off and fights in World War III, because World War III happens in the 3rd season of Railgun.
Having mutants, of course.
No, it was the 3rd season of Index that World War III actually happens, but it's during the timeline of Railgun T, which is the 3rd season of Railgun.
Are you sure?
Sorry?
Are you sure what World War Z?
World War Z. No, it was World War III, not Z. But there was a lot of magic and esper powers used in World War III, so it was pretty full on. But massive plot points aside, during this arc, you really do get to see someone who is very results orientated and works really, really hard, and is only a 14-year-old, have to deal with things like, oh my God, I've been cloned 20,000 times and they're just killing them. And feeling powerless despite her massive amounts of power, that she can't stop these evil corporations from doing what they're doing. And then being bailed out by this guy who is, according to Academy City, powerless. And yet he manages to stop what's going on for her. So basically, I think the idea is basically saying that nobody is powerless. There's always somebody out there who can do something if you believe in friendship and, looking after your fellow person. Then something can be done about it. And I think it's a very good message.
Yeah.
That this arc sort of says, shit happens. Get with your friends, get some help, and deal with it that way, because trying to deal with it yourself isn't always the way to go.
Yep. That's true, and that's something that drags a lot of conflict with her. Is she's very stoic, and
Hmm.
sometimes she keeps problems to herself when she has friends that are dying to help her.
Yeah. Oh, it happens a lot.
She does. That's one of the worst things she does throughout this arc. Actually, is she tries to conceal all the problems and her inner conflict with the clones, and then that's why she even had the lunch with her friends and kind of invite them to make up for her guilt.
Well, it's very tsundere not to want anybody to see mistakes that you have made. Hide
Yep.
your mistakes. That's a very tsundere tendency. Anything that will embarrass you is got to be hidden. And that's basically what she's doing. She doesn't want to get her friends involved, A, because it's dangerous, and B, because she doesn't want them to know how badly she fucked up. And it's very much keeping within her character.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, the arc does have funny moments. And as you said, when she works with her friends, she can achieve a lot. The very first episode where the radicals break their friend out of the hospital and they get into the helicopter and they were going to take that other little girl as a hostage, and Misaka manages to stop them getting away long enough to free her. Although she got thrown over the edge, but Saten managed to catch her. And then Mikoto's like, right, I'm going to deal with you bastards. Kuroko, give me a hand. And Kuroko starts teleporting them through the air because Kuroko can teleport fast enough that they can actually hop through the air rather than falling because gravity hasn't got enough time to grab a hold of them. And Mikoto basically does a nosedive with no parachute in front of the helicopter and uses her railgun ability to blow the rotors off the helicopter. And then Kuroko's nice enough to teleport them out of the helicopter before it crashes and arrest them because she's part of Judgment. So, I mean, when they work together, they're unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of the problem that Mikoto tries to do it by herself. She's all that, but she's not completely unstoppable by herself. And there's actually scenes that aren't part of the storyline that are in the opening, where Kuroko is there helping her fight against Meltdowner, and and then Toma shows up as well in that sequence, and I think it's sort of outlining that you do better with friends.
Yeah.
Don't try and deal with things yourself. You always do better when your friends are helping. And if they're real friends, they will help. So I think that's kind of like the overarching message. But yeah, it's a really good arc. It's one of my favorite arcs in all of anime. It gets a bit dark, which is always interesting. But there's also a fair bit of levity and yeah, it's got good balance. It's a great story, and I highly recommend anybody who likes anime, sci-fi anime in particular, and if you've watched any of Railgun or Accelerator or Index, and you haven't watched this arc, you should check it out.
Awesome.
What do you guys think? That's kind of like my final words, actually. So,
okay.
Unless there's anything else you want to cover, we could go to final words.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to cover?
Let's go there.
Me in particular, I do wish that they would have developed a little bit about her romantic life, because she's still just a teenager and she's a normal girl. So damn you, writers, for taking that away from us. Yeah,
everybody's shipping like either Toma and Mikoto or Kuroko and Mikoto, but it's just he wasn't interested in going down the romantic route. He was more on the sci-fi adventure route. So that's what we got.
But yeah, I mean, just to accompany what you say, I think that this is like one of those animes that if you like anime, you have to watch it.
Mm.
Just like for me is watching Cowboy Bebop, just that good.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think that if nobody has watched this, they should watch Railgun for sure. It's a fun watch, and it's one of those animes that keeps you on the loop of what the timeline and the plot is, but he lets you enjoy one filler or something in the background too at the same time. That still develop character between characters inside the series, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stray away. Like I was saying earlier, like if you wanna learn animes that have gone dead because of fillers, learn from this series. Definitely.
For sure. The interesting thing is that the entire contents of the 3 seasons of this anime that has currently been made covers a period of 3.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So much shit went down in 3.5 months, you just would not believe.
Yep.
Wow.
Including World War III.
Including World War III. It leaves a lot open. That's a reality. That's the truth. But I think I mean besides that, I mean I wish they do like a violent version of it. That would be cool because everybody's power that uses it, they're dangerous powers.
Mm.
So you could do like an uncensored version of that, and this will be worse than Berserker probably. There's room for blood.
Yeah, they could do a lot more blood. This is true.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah.
Do you have some final comments, Robert?
Yeah, my final comments. One of the things that I take away from this is something that I don't quite see in many animes, and it's the fact that this is a universe, and I love that. You have on one end you have magical index, you have scientific railgun, you have accelerator, but it's a whole universe where you could watch something just so you can know what the other stuff is in the other show or the characters and some kind and they intertwine, not necessarily throughout the whole series, but maybe an episode or two. And it's something that I don't quite see, and correct me if I'm wrong, between the two of you, but I don't recall another anime that does universes like this anime does, and it's so cool.
But the only other one I can think of is SAO.
Yeah.
Yes.
Online,
Yes.
Which has the SAO offshoot Gun Gale Online.
Yes.
Which is getting a second season. Finally, Gun Gale Online's getting a second season. So we'll have to cover that because it is basically a cyberpunk game that they're playing in. So
yep.
It is right up our alley.
I need to pick
I
up.
I really enjoyed the Gun Gale Online anime, and I'm glad it's getting a second season.
So yeah, basically that's my final thoughts on it. I strongly recommend it because it to me is unique. I aside from obviously SAO, and even if we compare it to SAO, it's a complete different. It's kind of hard for me to explain, but it's done differently, right? They're both good, obviously, in the or rain. This one over here, it's so cool, and I wish that more anime would be that way, because it gives you opportunity to get more content on the stuff that you really like, and I don't see that becoming a thing. I think this universe creation, in my opinion, might be just accident, but I'm loving it for it. So if you are a sci-fi lover and obviously an anime lover, I would strongly recommend it. And that's my final thought.
Cool. So one last thing I want to mention before we go into the science behind science fiction, which we've got some good stuff for this week, actually. There is various ways to watch all of these anime that are recommended. There's a GameRant.com article about a certain magical index in order to watch all the anime seasons. So they don't actually mention Accelerator in this, which is a shame, because that's another part of this jigsaw puzzle of a world, as Robert has said. But the order in which they recommend is to watch a certain scientific Railgun, the first season, which happens before Magical Index starts, and then Railgun S, which is the second season, then a certain Magical Index, the first season, then Index 2, which is the second season. Oh, and then it says Accelerator, so they do mention Accelerator. So Accelerator after those two. Then watch the certain Magical Index movie, A Miracle of Endymion. And then Railgun T, which is the third season, and then Magical Index third season. So it's sort of mishmash all over the place where these things happen. But the very first chronological order is the first season of Railgun. So it actually is the first thing that happens within that milieu, which is interesting that they went back.
This is kind of what Robert does with Star Trek, but with anime.
Yeah, pretty much. And on that note, I think we're ready for the final segment.
In sci-fi.
Well, as you can imagine, now the first part of this happened in 2008, and we've been having different sections all the way up to 2020 when the most recent third season of Railgun came out. So over 11 years, there was a whole bunch of different seasons of anime, and there was a lot of science in there. And of course, we're basically linking up real world science with what we were seeing, up to 11 years ago in these anime series. And you probably noticed, now I will throw this up, we have police robots within this anime. So that's an image of them there. They're sort of like trash cans with a single eye and wheels on the bottom. Which can sort of open up R2-D2 style with various arms and different things like shock tasers to shock people and stuff like that. But these things tend to run around and be first responders to various things happening within Academy City and attempting to deal with the people who were causing them. Now, I haven't got this is actually a video of a security robot from Stark Enterprises. It's an interesting creator's name. But basically, this is a security robot.
It is so cool.
So that's Sam, the security robot, and as you can probably tell, there's quite a lot of similarities here.
But he doesn't shoot and doesn't electrocute, though. Okay.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. That could be an upgrade option.
That would make it cool.
That could be an upgrade option. So those are that's in 2023. So that was just last year that thing went live. So it's taken over a decade, but we're seeing parallels now between Academy City and the real world. Similarly, these cleaning robots, which are running around the city cleaning it up. Japan is one of the cleanest societies in the world. They do like to keep their streets clean and things like that. So obviously they would create robots to run around and clean up after the less cleanly members of society. So do we have anything like that in the real world? There's this commercial cleaning robot called Cleaning Robot CC201, which basically is the same shape and follows the same function. I don't know if it's programmed as well as the ones in the anime theoretically were, but it's a very similar shape. Not so much the little rhomba type of deal, but a much bigger unit, which probably can pick up larger things, but it is somewhat similar in design. So there we've got those comparisons as well.
Street Roomba.
Street Roomba, yeah. So yeah, that's a couple of things I picked up. The last thing that I wanted to mention was, now I was having to think about it early this morning, about putting an AI, or not an AI, but a supercomputer in orbit. So in the anime, they have Tree Diagram, which is a supercomputer in orbit of Academy City. Now, Academy City actually has its own spaceport where they launch rockets from, which is quite interesting. And it has its own ground stations as well for communications. And they decided, in their infinite wisdom, to put a supercomputer in orbit. Now, why would they put it up there? I was thinking that it was pointless to put a supercomputer in orbit when it would be much easier to run one on the ground. It'd be very difficult to upgrade it or repair it up in space. They always have problems with trying to get things that are in space and hard to get to be fixed when they're broken. Think the Hubble Space Telescope and how much it costs to fix that. But, computing devices. Also, there's the big problem of increased amounts of radiation in space, which can affect the functioning of normal IC chips in space. And in fact, NASA has been doing some experiments in that field, in fact. And where's my tab? I had a tab here. Here we go. Okay. So 3 things NASA learned after it put a supercomputer in space. This is from a website called fastplay.com. And obviously, NASA has been attempting things about supercomputers in space. And I'll just, oops, will you stop that? My mouse decided to run away with my tab. So there's the article there for those who are watching the video of this episode. And it says, in space, you can't count on the internet. Yeah. Which is fair enough too. I mean, it might be different now with Starlink. Maybe there's more options for internet on the International Space Station. But it says that they put Hewlett-Packard Apollo 4000 series Enterprise server on the International Space Station. It's not super fast compared to the supercomputers of today, but it does fit the definition of the supercomputer because it can perform more than 1 teraflop of operations per second, which is what the old definition of a supercomputer was. Obviously now supercomputers are way faster than that. But there's all sorts of do's and don'ts and issues about putting supercomputers in space. They discovered that software can protect a system. They were running software that was constantly monitoring the key components and possible effects of radiation. Whenever one operated out of parameters, the system hunkered down in idle mode and then did a full health check before resuming. So the software was actually controlling the function of the supercomputer to make sure that it wasn't malfunctioning because of problems with radiation. You can't count on the internet. The software that was provided with the computer that they sent up there was assuming near constant internet access, which they don't have on the International Space Station, apparently. So they had to modify it for spaceborne systems running in what was considered a remote location. And the third thing was that astronauts aren't IT pros. The documentation was written for computer specialists, which astronauts are not.
They can't call the IT department.
No, they can't. They can't get the IT. So they had to write more detailed, less jargony maintenance instructions for the
They
ISS.
just have the IT guy over there.
You turn it off, turn it back on again.
Yeah.
Fixed.
Hey, I actually was watching a video of the last cosmonaut of the USSR, and the guy was lost in space practically.
Oh, Jesus.
Because when
That's
he
not
wanted
fun.
to come down, the nation he left doesn't exist anymore. It was.
I was in orbit when my country went poof.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody wanted to bring him down, and he will see people come and go. He stayed like 341 days, I think, in space.
That's not good for you. I mean, we've discussed this before that you lose
bone marrow right quick.
Bone mass. You lose bone density in space very quickly, and muscle mass, and it's very hard to maintain these things when you're not under the normal gravities that your body expects to be under. So he would have had some serious trouble.
He had to exercise half of your day or more. It's like, I think it's 6 or 8 hours daily of exercise to maintain the decay process from not literally slow it down. You don't stop it.
Yeah, it's very hard. And of course, the USSR went big on health and safety, so they probably didn't include a whole bunch of stuff to really look after the cosmonauts.
Oh, literally, they put it on a way that whenever the light flicker, he could just die because he had to be maintaining the place. And he says that like every time that there was a flicker or a light, it could be just the last breath, and you don't know it.
Space is not friendly, boys and girls. It's a rough place to hang out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was thinking that putting a supercomputer in space would be pointless, and it would be much better to have it on the ground and just beam the data to it to process. But apparently, it was helpful to have this device that NASA sent up to the International Space Station up there, because apparently they gather so much data up there that it's actually a lot faster if they can process it on site than sending it down to Earth, getting processed and getting the results back. So there is actually a reason for having it up there, but actually putting a supercomputer in orbit that you are using from the ground is probably not the smartest move for the exact same reasons. So it's kind of weird that they decided to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, I can see the reason. I think about it. The space doesn't belong to anybody.
That was my next comment. Space is extraterritorial. So if you put a supercomputer up there and have it do dodgy shit, nobody can complain.
Exactly.
Because there's no law there.
Exactly. That's the main reason.
Which is probably the reason they put it there.
Yeah.
And it is kind of exposed in this arc that's what they were doing. They were running probabilities on the level 6 shift, and that's how they came up with the 20,000 clones that they needed accelerated to exterminate to reach level 6. And of course, that sort of computing would be highly unethical, and if it was done on Earth, there would be reason for international agencies like the UN to get involved. But of course, if they're doing it up in space, nobody can complain because nobody owns it. So there you go. That would be the reason it was up there. And of course, as I said, in the Magical Index, Anime Index actually destroys tree diagram by accident when the magic that is protecting her grimoire gets activated and basically fires a beam up through the roof of one of the teachers' houses into space and destroys the space station.
Whoopsie days.
Because that shit happens in Academy City.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So yeah, that was what I. Sorry.
That's a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday. Yeah. 2 for Tuesday. It could have killed 2 satellites. So that was what I was covering for the science behind science fiction. You guys got anything?
Well, I'm gonna pick from our very rich list about augmented reality, actually, which is actually A scientific fact is that it's an augmented reality. It is also known as AR. You've seen it on your iPhones probably. You can do a lot of fun stuff with it, but it's a technology that overlays digital information onto the real world environment. Typically using devices like smartphones, tablets, smart glasses, AR enhancers. It enhances the user's perception of reality by adding virtual elements. I kind of play with that actually on my VR, for example. There's things that you can actually do that you can lay out with AI technology, non-physical objects like the one you're holding right in front of you. But basically, I think that you can do a lot. If you don't know what's happening, you should go and watch our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a fun way for you to play with the blurred lines of reality. If you think about it, like what we're seeing right now happen. Are the rays coming from her on the back of the screen?
Yeah, definitely.
That reminds me of a backflip that she does. Remember? I was like, oh, okay, no, this is bullshit. I think it's in the first season, though. But she takes down the helicopter, remember?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Oh, bro. I was like, nah, okay, get the fuck out. But I like how they play with it. It reminds me a little bit of like the stuff that you see on Ghost in the Shield. I like how the computers work. They try to make it look very classical when they are like in the little office that they have. But when you go to the scientist laboratories, it looks like kind of like holographic computers and stuff like that. So it shows you also like they are teenage girls with very little resources fighting these people that have OP resources.
Mm.
But I mean, I'm waiting at this point. I bought the Oculus 2. I'm waiting at this point for AR technology to really get better because it's one of those technologies I've been following and I'm looking forward to when it becomes real deal, to be honest. Especially for flying planes with rubber. You imagine, man, having like an actual.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That would be badass. There's a lot of good uses for it.
Awesome. I guess I can talk about one of the things that relates to this IP that we're covering. Electromagnetism. You know, one real scientific example of electromagnetism is the operation of an electric motor. It's kind of like a simple way to display that. Basically, you use electricity to activate a magnet that then rotates because of the electromagnetism in order to create movement. The cool thing about that too is the fact that you could also use it the other way around. You can transfer movement into electricity by twisting it. I remember playing around with as a kid those electric motors for like little cars where you can actually turn them into like generators by just turning them around. And the reason why I wanted to cover that is because it's what comes to mind for this anime when Mikoto used those coins that she would shoot out and basically have a massive cannon. But that's kind of like the actual definition of a railgun and how you can use that to propel an object at high speeds.
I have other better practical examples of how we use magnetism as kids. Like when you would grab a fork and put it in a plug in the wall.
Oh,
you feed yourself.
Zap.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
It sure does. It sure does. I was actually going to say, and I forgot to mention this earlier, that I can't quite see how Mikoto's railgun works, because she flicks the coin up, and when it gets down to the level of her arm, she manages to fire it out.
Exactly.
But my understanding of how railgun works is you need a barrel with a gap between two magnets, and the magnetic field runs down the barrel and pushes the magnetic payload ahead of it. And that's what accelerates. But I'm not quite sure how she accelerates something.
So I think
it's just at the end of her arm.
You
and then it shoots out.
You should have done this first. So it's like,
yeah, put the coin in there and out between her fingers. That'd work. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure how that works. But a bit of hand waving aside.
I think it couldn't be too perfect, and there you go. You have it. You found it.
I mean, she could do this with both her arms and sort of create a magnetic field between.
If she does this, she has to say Hadouken.
True, and we don't want to get into copyright infringement, so we couldn't do that.
Oh wow! So yeah, that came to mind, but and also the superconductivity, something similar to that could happen, like if you put in a metal in an MIR machine. But yeah, it's actually my brain trying to understand how that could work. And yeah, I'm with you, Ray, on that one. I just don't get how that would work. But I can see how they could bend it to their will in this anime.
Maybe because how she's got her arm stretched out. Maybe she runs a magnetic charge, like electric charge, down her arm, which creates a magnetic field going forward, and that's what propels it out. Like the field extends out past her arm and then accelerates the coin. That's about the only way I could imagine it working, that she runs it down her arm first and it pushes out past her arm to accelerate the coin.
I would think also that the process where she's accelerating the coin is kind of countering gravity and everything else, so that's how she's able to suspend it and aim it down. If you think about it, there's a lot of unrealistic friction going on in a very concentrated point of space. Enough to disrupt gravity, at least.
Apparently, her coin railgun only has about a 50-meter range, because after 50 meters, the coin disintegrates because it's superheated.
Fusion.
It just goes.
Yep.
Not even, it vaporizes.
But if you was it in the first season? Or is it late? It might be later in this season. But at some point, she actually uses her railgun on I think it was a kind of like a mech. It was a sort of a mechanized thing that they stuck it on a rocket and sent it up into space, because there was a missile coming down that was going to destroy Academy City, and it was going to MIRV before she got into range. So she had to go to it and get it before it MIRVed, and she couldn't stop it anymore. So she ended up getting help from Congo, whose father builds rockets. His company builds rockets, and they sent this thing up into the stratosphere and intercepted the rocket. And she actually got behind the cab of this thing and fired the entire thing at the missile.
And literally, she resolved it like that.
It's like, not always the coin. It's not always the coin.
The most hilarious part is like, how are we gonna get to there? Like, don't worry, talk to my dad. He's Elon Musk.
Yeah, basically. Japanese Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But I mean, she doesn't just fire coins.
You would think so.
She also fired an arm off a mech thing at another point as well.
I believe it. I mean, she can control with magnetism anything that could be magnetized, metals and things like that. So if you think about it, like the fight that she has with the accelerator, when she bursts out and takes all the rail tracks, she can do that. She can do practically anything when it comes to
he can too.
Yeah.
He does the same thing to Toma, throws rail tracks at him.
We know it.
Sorry, Robert, we distracted you.
No, that's okay. So, but yeah, that's basically what I wanted to mention, only because of my, my brain trying to process and how that would actually work. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
there's lots of good science kicking around in this. Oh, and just one other point before we wrap it up. But Geo, if you're interested in AR, you should really have a look at Ordinal Scale, the first Sword Art Online movie, because it's basically all about that. I keep telling you to check it out. It's on Hulu.
Ordinal Scale?
Yeah.
Hulu? Oh, come on.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah. You know where I'm going to watch it.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Which is actually the reason why I haven't watched it yet. But yeah.
I know you would not be able to resist the impenetrable wall of pop-ups and the content that it brings. Anybody that knows. If you know, you know.
You just need a pop-up zapper.
Yep, that's what I use.
To borrow a term from this anime. Zapper.
Because it's very scientific, so
Yeah, it's scientific-y. Definitely scientific.
What's the name of the movie? Because I don't want to.
Ordinal Scale. ORDINAL Scale.
I don't see Ordinal Scale.
Sword Art Online, the movie, Ordinal Scale.
Progressive, maybe?
No. Progressive is different.
Let me see. All right.
We could try to find it and send it to you. And I invite the listeners too to join up. And if you've seen it,
found it.
Awesome.
Apparently it's on Crunchyroll too.
And before we finish, buddy, we actually have a channel. If you want it.
You just faded out, dude.
Huh?
You just faded out for some reason.
Yeah, now you're. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you want to join the Railgun conversation, there's a place. And we even have a hashtag called, we have a channel for that. And if we don't have it, we'll make it. So it's just a good opportunity to invite everybody to join us on Discord and not miss the chance to continue the awesome conversation while I cover race face.
Awesome. So that actually concludes our episode for today. Again, I welcome everybody to join us on our Discord server. There is a channel, just like Captain Chaos says, there's a channel for everything. If you don't find a channel for what you're looking for, just reach out. We can make it a thing. But I can definitely say that you could probably find the channel you're looking for in there. Join us for the conversation. Join us. Reach out to us there. Let us know what you think about previous episodes. What would you like us to cover next? Or if you want to just talk to us about your favorite sci-fi. Also, we do have a website. The website is sciencefictionremnant.com. You can go there, and we have a section where we are actually writing articles that are, they're easy read, and they're about 3-4 minutes reading time. That is basically the equivalent to what we are here talking on, how we mix science fiction with science and all the stuff that we talked about here. And of course, if you're not on YouTube, if you're listening to this episode on the pod, there's going to be a lot of weird pauses and weird, all of a sudden stop gap conversations. And what's going on right now is that they're trying to distract me from what I'm trying to do. But if you're not on YouTube, you will not know what's going on. So I invite you, if you're listening to us on the pod, go into our YouTube channel and subscribe. We also, yes. if you want to help the show, we do have a Patreon. And you can go ahead and join our Patreon. There is a QR code on the screen right now. All you got to do is just scan it, and it takes us there. And help us out. If you like the show, help us out joining our Patreon. Also, we have an issue, and we need your help. We need to keep our very own Captain Chaos caffeinated. He needs his coffee. If you want to help us out with that, we also have a Buy Me a Coffee. So if you want to help out keeping our very own Captain Chaos addiction, there is a QR code there. All you have to do is just scan it, and you can help us out there. Also, do not forget, we do have a hotline where you can actually call us and leave any messages for any previous episodes that you have heard, or you can tell us, if you don't want to be on our Discord, you can just call us and let us know what episode you would like to for us to discuss next. And the cool thing about it is, if you have a comment, and you could actually leave a recording, we can play it on the next episode, and we can make a discussion out of it. So the hotline is 305-563-6334. Again, that is 305-563-6334. Again, thank you, all of you, for joining us. Check back our back catalog, and there's probably the IP you're looking for is probably listed there. So you just kind of like scroll down, and you'll see our catalog. And again, repeat it again. If you find that your IP is not listed, reach out, let us know, and we can definitely put it on the list. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for being just one more week with us on this episode. We really, really, really appreciate you coming in every week, not only to listen to us on the pod, but also watching us on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate, and we can't wait to have you back on the show. So until the next time, goodbye.
Bye.